Now to our NewsHour share, something that caught our eye that might be of interest to you as well. As we noted earlier, today marks the 75th anniversary of Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. The ensuing battle claimed the lives of more than 2,400 Americans and triggered U.S. involvement in World War II. An unknown NBC reporter in Honolulu spoke by telephone that day in a dispatch that was broadcast live across the nation.
2 hours of bombing were enough to change the course of World War II. Several days had passed since a fleet of aircraft carriers and hundreds of Japanese soldiers left their ports for Hawaii. Their target, the U.S. Army's Pacific Fleet, anchored in the harbor at Pearl Harbor. The reason, an outstanding debt between the two nations that could not be left unresolved. To understand the reason for this attack, we will delve into the history that will show us one of the most dramatic episodes of the Second World War, but which would undoubtedly change its course forever, leaving as a result a devastated empire and a lot of blood spilled. The story behind the attack on Pearl Harbor began during one of the most difficult times for the Japanese economy. The shortage of natural resources was weakening the Japanese empire, and there seemed to be no improvement in sight, leaving the island almost entirely dependent on imports to meet its basic needs. Faced with this reality, the Japanese government, led by a group of fervently nationalistic military officers, saw the war as an opportunity to secure much-needed resources. But what motivated Japan to turn its attention to Pearl Harbor? Pearl Harbor was a strategically located naval base in Hawaii that was an obstacle to Japan's expansion plans. At that time, attacking Pearl Harbor became a crucial move to weaken the United States and gain a strategic advantage in the Pacific. Thus came December 7, 1941, a day that will live in infamy as the day when history took a dramatic turn. The Japanese fleet surprised the American forces at Pearl Harbor with a devastating attack. This act of aggression marked the beginning of an escalation of the conflict that would lead to the entry of the United States into the war and the subsequent advance of the Allies to victory. In this tragic event, more than 2,000 American lives were lost, scores of people were injured, and many ships were destroyed. But what motivated Japan to launch this bold attack on the Americans at Pearl Harbor? The attack on Pearl Harbor was not only a strategic military move for Japan, but it also had a major international impact. It set in motion a series of events that led Germany and Italy to declare war on the United States, thus initiating a global escalation of the conflict. By the time of the attack, Japan had already consolidated its dominance over much of the Pacific, occupying territories such as Thailand, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Indonesia, Burma, and the Philippines. This ruptured relations between the two countries and marked the beginning of a spiral of violence. What makes this event even more intriguing is the meticulous planning that Japan undertook to carry out the attack. For years, its representatives negotiated with the United States, giving the impression that they were seeking peace. However, it was all a carefully calculated cover to take Pearl Harbor by surprise and create havoc on the U.S. base. The relationship between Japan and the United States was anything but friendly. A few months before the attack, in response to Japan's expansionist policies, the United States imposed an oil embargo on the Japanese nation. This had a profound effect on Japan, which was heavily dependent on oil imports and could not afford to lose this valuable resource. Plunged into a deep crisis, Japan had no choice but to take a step forward. The attack on Pearl Harbor marked a decisive turning point in World War II. Up to that point, the United States had maintained a position of supporting England against Germany, while Japan sought to expand in Asia. Tensions grew, however, and the conflict escalated. Japan's conflict in Asia and its expansionist intentions had precedence when war broke out between Japan and China in 1937, when the former invaded Manchuria to seize its vital natural resources. Hostilities continued in 1937 when Japan captured Shanghai and Nanjing, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Tensions continued to rise as Japan moved north into Indochina, and the United States intervened, freezing Japanese goods and restricting oil supplies. In the midst of all this, Japan rejected diplomatic resolutions to abandon China and the surrounding territories and continued its quest for expansion. What followed was a chain of events that changed the global landscape and left an indelible mark on history. After that day, tensions between the United States and Japan reached alarming levels. Anger and resentment filled the air, leading to an unprecedented response. Two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, suffered the devastating effects of an atomic bomb, taking the lives of countless innocents. The scale of the tragedy was overwhelming, far exceeding the scale of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yet despite the immense destruction and the deep divisions between these nations, this painful event played a pivotal role in changing the course of Japan. It was a turning point that ushered in a new era in which Japan decided to abandon its long history of war and seek peace. After the end of World War II, Japan pledged to stay out of war conflicts and signed an agreement with the United States, becoming strategic allies. Today, the Japanese visit Hawaii and enjoy the privilege of having a passport that allows them free access to the United States. As we explore the events of the past, let us remember that history is a constant reminder of the lessons we have learned and how our actions can forge a path toward peaceful and fruitful coexistence.